Hey, Warpugs. Today we're going to be celebrating Anzac Day alongside our people in New Zealand and Australia. So happy Anzac Day to you guys. I'm trying to get this video out when it's getting near dawn. Kind of coincide with this. I hope that you guys enjoy the day. I'm going to be checking out a couple of things about Anzac Day. I thought the best place to start, the absolute best place to start, would be where the Anzac Day actually started, which was Gallipoli. Now, if you guys don't know anything about Gallipoli, Gallipoli was a campaign fought in World War One, and in this war, in this campaign, it was an absolute. The campaign was an absolute disaster. Okay, the campaign was an absolute disaster, mainly because of terrible planning, and that happens in war. That happens in war. But one of the things that happened in this battle was it was the first time that Australian and New Zealand forces had suffered major casualties. And Anzac Day was made to remember this campaign. And it eventually, when World War II started, it became the entirety of World War One, and eventually has become any casualties or support, remembering the people that served. Essentially, Anzac Day for Australia is like Memorial Day or Memorial Day and Veterans Day for the States. So if you're thinking about a comparison, that would be it. It's also, what's the best way to say this based off what I know about Anzac Day? Anzac Day would be like if you rolled the meanings of July the 4th, Memorial Day, and Veterans Day into one day, because the Gallipoli campaign not only was the first time that the country had suffered major casualties in war, it was also a big stepping stone for the national identity of both New Zealand and Australia. So, with all that being said, we're going to watch Gallipoli 1915, and this is done by Heroes and Generals, okay? And we're going to be checking out some other stuff throughout the day. So if you're in Australia and New Zealand, happy Anzac Day. Here we go. I have been asked for months if I was going to celebrate Anzac Day. For months. And I'm glad to do it. Kings and Generals, sorry. Heroes and Generals is a game. Kings and Generals, I'm an idiot. You guys know this.
The Great War of 1914 to 1918 is full of memorable campaigns.
By the way, you guys can't start requesting stuff from Kings and Generals. I watched this on my own time. This is me bringing you into my world. Don't do this to me. Don't make me not watch one of my favorite channels.
Pains and battles. But even amongst the most famous engagements, the campaign in the Gallipoli Peninsula shines through due to its unconventionality. It is widely accepted that both sides showed exemplary bravery,
yes,
and the Gallipoli campaign remains in history as a symbol of gallant warfare and respect between two worlds. What were the reasons for this campaign, and what happened during it? Let's find out together. We're very grateful to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. ExpressVPN is
now this video came out about 2 years ago. I'm going to go ahead and get through this right here because I'm pretty sure he's not doing this campaign anymore. But let's go ahead.
By the time of the start of the Great War, the Ottoman Empire was considered the sick man of Europe,
yes,
on the decline for more than 2 centuries. Therefore, the Ottomans were not part of the core of either the Entente nor the Central Powers.
Now, this campaign also had a lot to do with why the modern nation of Turkey exists. In any case, moving on, shutting up.
Both sides courted the Turks, but a number of factors, including increasing investment by Germans in Turkey, historical animosity with the Russians, and the confiscation of 2 almost ready military ships ordered by the Ottoman Empire from Britain, persuaded the Ottomans to join the Central Powers. Symbolically, Ottoman participation in World War I began on the 27th of October 1914. When a number of Russian Black Sea ports were raided by 2 formerly German warships, Goeben and Breslau, which were given to the Ottomans and attacked under the Ottoman flag. the participation of the Ottoman Empire had a significant effect on World War I. The Ottomans forced Russia to divert some of its forces from its western borders fighting Germany and Austria-Hungary to the Caucasus front, while Britain and France had to allocate troops to fight the Ottomans in the Middle East. Furthermore, the Ottoman Empire was blockading supply routes from Britain and France to Russia since it controlled the Dardanelles and Bosporus. Hope for a quick victory was lost by late 1914. The Western Front was in a stalemate, and the Entente was looking to gain an advantage elsewhere. On January 2nd, 1915, the Grand Duke Nicholas of Russia requested that Britain help them against the Ottomans, who confronted the Russians in the Caucasus. Britain and France started planning a campaign against Turkey, with an aim to take control of the Dardanelles, gain a direct supply route to Russia, and devastate the Ottomans. The first step was to gain a foothold in the Gallipoli Peninsula. Britain's War Minister, Lord Kitchener, appointed General Sir Ian Hamilton to command the Mediterranean Expeditionary Forces. Troops from the Australian Imperial Force and New Zealand Expeditionary Force, the so-called Anzac Corps,
there it is,
and the French Orient Expeditionary Corps were also part of the Gallipoli campaign, among the 15 Allied divisions in total. The Allies did not expect strong opposition from the Ottoman army, as its military reputation was particularly tarnished after the recent defeats to Italy and the Balkan states. The First Lord of the Admiralty, Winston Churchill, was the initiator of the Gallipoli campaign, and he believed that 50,000 men would be enough to defeat the Ottomans. Lord Kitchener concluded that 70,000 troops would be necessary for a victory at Gallipoli. Leaders of the Greek army advised the British army about the necessity to have 150,000 men for a victory. This was arrogantly ignored by the British. Hamilton's plan was to land in the south of the Gallipoli Peninsula at Cape Helles and Sedel Bahir, move to the north, defeat the Turks and clear their batteries on the shores of the peninsula, and allow the navy to move through the straits towards Istanbul. The Ottomans defended the straits with the Fifth Army, which at the beginning of the campaign consisted of 5 divisions. In all, 16 divisions took part in the Gallipoli campaign on the Ottoman side.
Yeah, we're about to see how this went down. One thing to know, planning is a very rough obstacle in warfare. And if you don't plan correctly, bad things do happen. It doesn't matter how good your men fight. Like, there's only so much you can do with, like, a terrible war plan. I'm just saying.
The Fifth Army was commanded by German General Liman von Sanders. Another prominent military commander in charge of the Ottoman defense was Lieutenant Colonel Mustafa Kemal, a future founding father of the Turkish Republic. The Turkish and German commanders agreed that holding the high ground on the ridges of the peninsula was the best way to stop the Allies. They were unsure about the possible shores for the landing. Therefore, the Ottoman forces were divided into 3. The 19th Division under Mustafa Kemal and the 9th Division were placed at Cape Helles. 2 divisions were at Bulair in the north of the peninsula, protecting communication lines. The rest were stationed inland as a reserve. A major part of the campaign was the naval attack planned by the Allies. Since the Ottoman navy was considered very weak, the Allies decided to send their older warships to Gallipoli and keep the modern warships for a possible naval confrontation with the Germans in the North Sea. On the 18th of March 1915, the Allied fleet, consisting of 18 battleships, numerous cruisers, destroyers and submarines.
Battleships were the method to determine the actual strength of a navy. Like, not only the strength of a navy, the strength of a nation. These days, that's aircraft carriers. But back at the turn of the century, battleships were the measure of the wealth and power of a nation. How many battleships that group had. These days, it's all about the carrier, baby.
Attacked the Dardanelles Straits. The Ottomans were planning to defend using shore batteries and sea mines.
Lovely.
In theory, the Allied minesweepers were supposed to clean the straits from mines under supporting fire from the rest of the Navy.
Yeah, this didn't happen.
But the Allies were so overconfident that they ignored this conventional tactic. Some of their warships were as close to the shore as 1 mile. This made them an easy target for the Ottoman shore batteries. British battleships HMS Irresistible and HMS Ocean were lost, and HMS Inflexible was badly damaged. The French lost the battleship Bouvet with 600 of its crew. These losses forced Admiral de Robeck to fall back and regroup. This defeat was devastating for the Allies, and a huge boost to the morale of the Ottomans.
It just doesn't make any sense of why they would actually go into those straits like that, just completely... even think about it now, I wonder why they actually took that approach, because arrogance and ignorance are just I don't understand why they took that approach just to go flat out in there. It was, you don't subject yourself as a naval ship to shore-based bombardment. You just don't do it.
On the morning of the 25th of April, the Allies landed in 2 different parts of the peninsula. The Australians and New Zealanders landed at what has become known as the Anzac Cove, further north than they expected due to navigational errors. The goal of this landing was to advance inland and secure higher ground on Sari Bayir and to cut off the Ottoman troops in Kilit Bahir. The Ottomans did not expect a landing there. Therefore, only 2 companies were defending this beach. While this force was not enough to stop the Anzacs, unfavourable rocky terrain and Ottoman forces on the high ground inflicted significant damage. Anzac forces lost 2,000 men on the day of the landing and were not able to achieve any notable progress. They were ordered to dig in close to the shore. The second group landed at Hellas Cove. 29th Division landed on 5 different beaches named S, V, W, X and Y. At Y Beach, the first Battle of Krithia took place, and the Allies made significant progress, but were not able to exploit the advantages of their position due to a lack of orders. The Ottoman 25th Regiment...
This is also something that was happening, like... I have often said something about World War I. There was such a lack of ability, of knowing, of new tactics, of new ways to engage in warfare, things like that. That last statement right there, they could not do anything else because they didn't have the orders. Orders were very, very strict, especially in the British Army groups. In many cases, the officers would be completely removed from certain areas of the field. Like certain types of officers will be completely removed from the field. Whereas when the Americans showed up, officers were embedded with the troops. And it really made a lot of difference in the way that they were actually able to accord themselves. Now, this has changed a lot, but back in 1919 and 1915, World War I, like, people were still in the same mode that they were in the 1800s as far as warfare, as far as how to, actually accord yourself in warfare. So it blows my mind. Anyhow,
prevented them from advancing any further. At W Beach, the Lancashires lost 60% of their forces due to the Ottomans resisting their landing. The common theme of the landings on the 25th of April was that the Allies failed to exploit their advantages and continue advancing due to lack of orders. Instead, they decided to dig in on the shores, which proved to be counterproductive. On the 27th of April, the Ottoman 19th Division and part of the 5th Division counterattacked the Allies at Anzac Cove, but were repulsed with the support of naval gunfire.
Nice.
On the following day, the Allies tried to take the village of Krithia, but the Ottomans were able to stop the 29th Division halfway from Hellas to Krithia after inflicting 3,000 casualties. The arrival of the Ottoman reinforcements to Gallipoli proved that the Entente failed to act swiftly, and the confrontation was going to turn into a war of attrition. On the 30th of April, Mustafa Kemal attacked at Hellas and Anzac Cove and managed to break through the French sector, but had to stop under massive amounts of machine gun fire. The Anzacs counterattacked on the next day, but were repulsed by the Ottomans after a little progress. The Ottomans were dependent on artillery fire from high ground on the peninsula to repulse the Allied attacks. It was of utmost importance for the Allies to take control of these high grounds for the success of the Gallipoli campaign. On the 6th of May, 20,000 Allied men were sent to capture Krithia and the strategic high ground at Ashibaba. The Allies advanced after heavy artillery preparation, and for 2 days a fierce battle ensued, but they failed to capture either of the targets. On the 19th of May, 42,000 Ottoman troops aimed to take the 17,000 Anzacs by surprise and drive them into the sea. But the surprise failed, since on the previous day, the Ottoman preparations were seen by a British aircraft. The fighting went on until early June, when after 13,000 casualties, the Ottomans decreased the intensity of the attack and the lines consolidated. The final...
Yeah, if you're unfamiliar with the term driving them into the sea, it literally means completely and totally take them off the land and essentially annihilate the forces.
Major engagement started on the 4th of June, when the Allies attacked Krithia and Ashibaba again with the 29th Division, Royal Naval Division, 42nd Division and 2 French divisions. This attack was stopped as well and led to another period of trench warfare. Hamilton's request for an additional 95,000 troops to secure success at Gallipoli was rejected.
Why?
Since another offensive on the Western Front was planned. Bulgaria's entry into the war on the side of the Central Powers made the situation for the Allies even more precarious. The decision to evacuate troops was made. First, in September, 3 divisions were moved from Gallipoli to Salonika. Despite gloomy predictions, the Allies were able to safely evacuate the majority of their troops by the end of the year. Both sides lost 56,000 people in this short but bloody campaign. The Entente failed due to a lack of coordination, difficult terrain, insufficient planning, the spread of diseases, overconfidence, and spirited resistance by the Ottomans. As a result of this campaign, the confidence of the Ottomans greatly increased, and they managed a victory in Kut al-Amara in 1916 against the British.
Right.
The attempt by the Entente to support Russia and lighten their military burden failed, which can be considered as one of the reasons behind the eventual revolution and the defeat of Russia.
So basically, Russia was begging for help the entire war. Russia was technologically behind, they were militaristically behind, and they were essentially facing the leadership of the Prussian army, the German army, the Prussian army, pretty much they were just getting stomped out pretty hard, and things were getting worse and worse and worse for them. Eventually, it just got to the point where, the Russians were sitting there just begging for help that was not coming. And that's what happened. All it took was an exile returning home backed by German gold, and then you had the birth of the USSR. Yep.
Britain and France continued prioritizing the Western Front, despite bloody and indecisive trench warfare. Churchill resigned from the government and volunteered for active service as a lieutenant colonel on the Western Front. The disaster in Gallipoli was also one of the factors behind the fall of the Asquith cabinet. The war continued for 3 more years. We are planning to continue our series on modern warfare, so make sure you are subscribed to our channel and have pressed the bell button. We would like to express our gratitude to our Patreon supporters and channel members who make the creation of...
Guys, so this was an overview. Now, of course, it doesn't go into everything that happened. There's no way you can. There's absolutely no way that you can. But this does... One thing I like about heroes in general, like, not heroes in general, I'm an idiot. Kings in generals, is that, the major events of the war are always put out there. And it's very, very neutral in terms of the way the way the information is given. So, this is the campaign that gave birth to two things. One, it gave birth to Anzac Day. Anzac is Australia New Zealand Army Corps. And it also gave birth to essentially the Turkish national identity. So two countries were born as a result of this battle. Three, were born as a result of this battle, as far as the forging of their national identity went. As far as Anzac Day itself, to all Australians and New Zealanders, thank you for tuning in, and happy Anzac Day. I'm going to head out. If you guys would like to support the channel, the best way to do that is just hit the like button and leave a comment down below. I don't know what else to say about this. I don't know what else to say about it. I'm going to be checking out things related to Anzac Day a little bit more, and I'll be posting throughout the day. So, I will see you guys next time. If you'd like to support the channel through other means, got a Patreon down below, and I got the merch by Valk. I'll catch you guys next time.